Welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at my top 10 board games of all time. As always with these videos, make sure to drop yours in the comments below so I can give them a read through, maybe compare them. Let me know if you think, I was going to say any that I've missed, but this is my favourite top 10. There might be games I'm forgetting, but it probably change in time as well. But let's get into it with number 10, Splendor Marvel. Now there's nothing wrong with the original, there's nothing wrong with other variations of it. But I'm a bit of a sucker for Marvel, I'm a bit of a sucker for variants, so this was right up my alley. It's one that got my game group into playing it, because I don't think they would have played the original. We're all huge comic book fans, we're all huge Marvel fans, so this was a no-brainer. I picked it up and we've played it a ton. When I originally got it, it's all we played. It was just interesting building these teams. There were so many smaller characters you wouldn't normally see in other games, but we could build them into our team. We could have Doctor Strange, we could have Lockjaw. It's a superhero. You could have Triton, you could have Maximus, I think you could have Maximus. Anyway, the point is there's a few different heroes that you wouldn't expect. So being big comic fans, it was a game that immediately appealed to us. If you're looking for something where you can draft your own teams, compare your power, and see who is the most powerful army of all, this might be the game for you. Coming in at number 9, I've gone for Fury of Dracula. Now this is one that I've only played one time and I don't currently own, so I have put it kind of low on the list. I was unsure whether to include it at all, but I've seen it played quite a lot on top of the playthrough, and it's just such an interesting and fun game. It's so unique, it's so different every time. I do really enjoy horror games. I would say they're my favourite genre, definitely of film, maybe of board game as well. I love Dracula, I love the 1 versus 3 aspect. I love Dracula skulking around. It's sort of quite a big map, so it can be quite interesting when he plays certain cards or you're caught off in certain areas. It's definitely not my favourite horror game, as you'll find out there's probably a handful still yet to come. The downside is it is quite long, which for you guys might not be a downside, but for my group in particular, we normally play a handful of games on a game night, so they tend to be quick, tend to be less than an hour, and this is definitely more than that. Coming in at number 8, I've gone for Munchkin, which most people have mixed reviews on. I think it's a really fun game, and that's all it should be. Maybe people take it too seriously, but it's a game where you go to a dungeon, you fight the monsters, you take the treasure, maybe backstab a friend or two, and you get out of there. It's so simple, it's so fun, it's so unique. The art style is incredible. I love the silly cards, and I love a lot of the silliness from Steve Jackson games. There's a few other titles that I quite like. They weren't going to make this list, but I love the silly humour. I love backstabbing a friend and stealing treasure. I love stealing levels. I might have a problem. It's just a fun game. It's one that we can get out anytime. It's one of the first ever board games I got, so we've been playing it for like, oh god, this is going to date me. Probably, it's between 10 and 15 years now, I think. So it's sort of like the flagship game for our group, which does sum up our board game nights quite well. There's a lot of backstabbing, there's a lot of jokes, there's a lot of silliness, but that's how it should be, and it's just a ton of fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and it's easy to get to a table. It's fairly quick. There's not much to hate about it. If you don't like the backstabbing aspect and the every man for themselves, you're probably not going to like this one. If you're interested, I would say give it a shot. There is a ton of expansions now. There's Critical Role, there's Marvel, there's Disney, there's Dragons, Cthulhu. There's so many interesting ones. We normally play with Kung Fu, Zombies. I was going to say Walking Dead, but I think it's Zombies. And then I've got a few like the Guild and other stuff that we slip in as well. It's just a ton of fun. So many silly things clashing. What's not to love? Coming in at number 7, and one that was one of my favourite games when I first played it. It's slowly dropped down the list, but it's still one of my favourites of all time. Raiders of the North Sea. Now, we've not played it as much as the other titles on this list, but it is one, when I get a chance, I love to bring out. It's my game of choice to bring out normally, because we don't play it as much as I would like. Basically, you're a clan of raiders, you're all on the same side, a clan of Vikings, and you're going to go out and raid monasteries, cities, ships, anything you can get your hands on really. And as you do that, by killing characters, by collecting certain items, by appeasing the gods, there's a few different ways to build points, but at the end of the game you're going to total it up, which I like. I like that you're doing stuff and then you don't find out the winner till the end. Makes it a little more interesting. Although I will say it is quite a long game, and I have seen players get disheartened when they're behind and sort of give up. which you never want in a board game. So I think maybe doing the scoring during the game might be a better idea, but this is a video of celebrating, so let's not find anything wrong with it. It is perfect. If you're into Vikings, it's one to try. I know there are better Viking games, like Blood Rage is like iconic. There's Vikings 88, I think it is, or Vikings something. Again, another one I want. I think probably would replace this, honestly. It's more of a war type game. It's more based on history, which is right up my alley. I find the Viking stuff absolutely fascinating, so that might be one that replaces it. I'll probably do this video every year. It's the end of 2021, so I wanted to do it now. Make sure you come back in 2022, so make sure you subscribe if you want to see any more board game or miniature stuff. But that's enough plug-in. Let's move on to number 6. In number 6, I've gone for Smash Up. Now this is another one of those just fun games with silly combinations. Like you could end up with magic werewolves, zombie leprechauns, robot dinosaurs, and that's just in the core box. There's so many expansions now. You can get superhero, you can get Cthulhu, you can get Greeks, there's just fairies, there's a ton of different combinations. Very similar to Munchkins. It's a lot of fun, it's very silly, it's not one to take too serious, but it is a lot more tactical than Munchkins. So in this game, there are going to be a selection of bases on the table. You're going to shuffle 2 factions together. That is your deck. You're going to now try and score the most points, and it's the first to 15, I think. So whoever has the most power is going to score the most points, then second and third, obviously. There are some where the middle one's more important, or the last one, and it has these really interesting powers at the bottom of them. So it could say, for every 5 minions here, gain a power each, or something like that. That makes it so interesting. It makes it different every time. There's so many different bases, so many different factions, so many ways to play this game. And I think that's why it's been a favourite, because we've been playing this for years. It's right up there with Munchkins for our group. It's one that just keeps coming back and back. I do need to get another expansion for it, because I've only got the one. I got Dracula again, so obviously the horror one, which was just a ton of Universal monsters basically. But yeah, I do plan to expand on this again, because like I say, it's one of my favourite games. So I think I'm going to grab the Greek superhero dragon one, I think it is. I can't remember what the other faction is. Either way, it's just a ton of fun. This is what I mean, and this is what gaming should be about. Coming in at number 5, it's probably my most played board game of all time. It's a fairly long one. There's a lot of setup and takedown in this one. It is Small World. Now again, I could choose the WoW version. I've not actually played it, but any skin of something that I like WoW, Marvel, Cthulhu, is always going to improve a game for me. I do get the appeal of playing the original and how it was made, but if you can introduce characters that I already love and stories I already love to those games, it just makes them better for me. A little off track, let's get back onto Small World though. So the reason I love this game, if you don't know what it is, basically you choose different armies and you're all vying for places on a board. So you can invade people, each race and each, I'm not even sure what to call it. It's like a descriptive word like berserking magicians or cave trolls. It's words where if you go to a certain area or you do a certain thing like berserking, you get bonuses to attacking and stuff like that. So there's like 20 different of each. So there's so many different combinations. Each game again is unique. There's a ton of expansions, so it just keeps getting more and more interesting. You can add more and more stuff to it. I don't know if the WoW version is compatible. I'd be interested to pick that up and try and put them together. I'm a huge fan of war games. I love playing Middle-earth, so this is like a really boiled down version in board game form, which I honestly couldn't ask for anything better. The only way they could improve this is maybe making a Lord of the Rings version. Don't know if that's gonna happen, but yeah, I just love it. All the fantasy races, there's hobbits, I think they call them halflings, trolls, there's orcs, there's humans, there's dwarves, all of those that you would recognize in that kind of story. And then there's just so many different variations. Like I said, you get powers for the dwarves, you get powers for berserking and other stuff. I don't know why I can't remember any other abilities. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. I'm sure you guys will remember some. This is literally my favorite game. I've played it a million times. But as soon as the camera comes on, my mind goes blank. Coming in at number 4, you probably guessed the genre of this game. That's right. It's another horror game. In at number 4, I've gone for Jaws. Now, Jaws is one of my favourite movies, one of my favourite horror movies of all time. I just think it's iconic. It is so incredible what it did, and I think it still does to this day. It transcends the genre which very few horror movies do. So I was glad to see it get a board game. I was a little worried because I wasn't sure how it would transition. Somehow it just works. It feels like the movie. So you're going to play, it's going to be 3 versus 1. So you're going to play a character or the shark. That's right, somebody actually gets to play the shark. I've not played the shark yet. And I think the shark has lost every time we played. So it might be slightly skewed. Although that is in keeping with the film, so it kind of works. Although I would like to give it a go myself. Basically, there are 2 phases. In the first phase, the shark is going to try and eat as many swimmers as it can, and you guys are going to try and stop him. If you can stop him, it's going to go to the next phase and you're going to get the advantage. If he manages to eat a ton of swimmers, you are in trouble. You're going to go into the next stage with disadvantage and it's going to be easier for the shark. So the first phase does really matter for the second. On the second, you are just on the boat, the orca, which I absolutely love. Basically, in the second phase, the shark is going to start to bite away the ship. It's going to pull it apart, drag you guys in, try and eat you, and you guys have got to finish it off. We have had some tense games, and that is the best thing about horror, when it adds that creepiness that makes your skin crawl. This game does that to some extent. It makes you a little nervy. Are you going to be able to beat the shark? Are you going to fall in? I think the first game I did fall in and die, but I think we won the game. Although I don't know if that counts as me winning. Regardless, it's Jaws, it's sharks, it's swimming, it's fun, is it fun? You be the judge. Now for my top 3. I have also got an honourable mention because it's a game that I've seen played a ton and one that I've got coming for my birthday, but I don't own it yet, I haven't played it. I just know, I can guarantee when I play it, it's going to be my number 1, but obviously I can't count that now. But we will get to that. So my number 3 is Pandemic, a World of Warcraft story. I think the title is Wrath of the Lich King after the best expansion, maybe in gaming history. I think the Lich King is the epitome of WoW, and when it was at its best, I think the Witch King is the... Lich King? I play too much Lord of the Rings. The Lich King is one of the greatest villains in all of World of Warcraft history. I absolutely adore the lore. I had to grab this game. I only just got it recently, but we did get to play it. And oh my God, the miniatures, the board, the memories most importantly. I think if you're a World of Warcraft player, you are going to adore this game. It's set in Azeroth, so you're going to recognize the places, the villains, you're going to recognize the characters you get to play as. You can play as Sylvanas, although she's fallen out of repute with fans at the minute. There's so many cool characters. You can play as Jaina, you can play as Varian Rin, obviously the greatest character in Warcraft history other than the Lich King. There's just so many cool characters you can use, and I can't believe the components in this. You get so many of the little ghouls, you get abominations, you get the Lich King. I am going to paint them up. I think if you're going to get this game, I would say be prepared to as well, because they do look good, but I think they're going to look incredible with a lick of paint. So this one is a little more personal to me because I love WoW, and there was times when I was absolutely obsessed with the game, honestly, in my childhood or teenage years anyway. Yeah, there's such good memories attached to that game for me though. I still play it now and again with my brother and some friends, so yeah, it's one that's always going to stick with me, and this game really encapsulates that for me. And to finally have a board game with WoW, which I enjoy. I did enjoy the card game, but yeah, this just hits different for me. Coming in at number 2, I've gone for Uk'otoa. Now, if you don't recognize the title, it is a slightly more niche board game. Now, this is created by Critical Role, so if you're a fan of Critical Role, you're gonna adore it. If not, you might not have heard of it, but I would say it's worth picking up just for the gameplay itself. Being a fan, obviously the creature Uk'otoa means a little more to me, so I get I am being biased here, but this is my top 10, so I think I'm allowed to be. Basically in this game, Uk'otoa, the sea creature, is gonna slowly take apart your ship, and it's going to eat different coloured meeples. You and your friends around the table get to choose where he goes. You get to choose where his tentacles hit, and that is where the gameplay comes in. You're going to have different factions that you want to win, or different coloured meeples. So it makes for this really interesting, should I advance him? Should I attack? Should I move him here? Do I want to block this guy off? Do I want my meeple to run away, or maybe push this guy here, or switch places? There's so many tactical, like small little changes you can make that make or break the game, and I do really enjoy that. I honestly think, even if this wasn't for Critical Role, I would adore this game. Again, it's one with a miniature, 1 second, which I absolutely had to paint. I will just overlay a picture rather than try and show you it here because that's gonna blur. But I absolutely love the miniature. I'm so glad to have that. I'm so glad to have this game. It's one of my favorites of all time. I only recently picked it up, so we've only played it a handful of times, but I just can't wait to get it out again. It's one of those, it's quite quick, which I think leans into why I enjoy it so much, because we can just keep playing it and it's different every time. Feels unique, feels like you're actually having an impact with your cards and moving it around. It's just a really fun game. A sea monster taking apart a ship, trying to survive. What's not to love about that? Again, it is slightly horror adjacent, but this one is not horror. It's not. My honourable mention definitely is, and I would say the epitome of the genre, the best of the best, the cream of the crop. It's Mansions of Madness. Now, like I said, it's a game I've only seen played, I don't own, so I couldn't put it on this list. Once I get it, and once I remake this list, I guarantee this time next year, it will be my favourite game. It covers everything. It's horror, it's Cthulhu, which I haven't said yet, but I almost put Pandemic Cthulhu on just because I adore that mythos. I find it fascinating. I find the Lovecraftian theme fascinating. It's a story-based game. It's one where your decisions matter. It's a big, long, immersive game, which are all things I adore. Maybe not so much my group, so I don't know how often this will get to the table. I might need to head down to Dice Cavern Games, which is where I normally game, and grab some games there with the owner and some of my friends there, because I think this might not be one for this group. I will try it at least once, maybe replace a D&D session with it or something, because I think I'm going to speak more about this than any other game on here. I'm so excited to get this. Basically, if you've not seen it before, you're going to play as investigators and go through different stories. So in the core box, I think there's 4 stories, and you can get expansions to get more. And you're going to go through mansions, you're going to explore them. It's all done on an app, which I do think is really cool. It's got the story, it reads it out, you can choose different stuff. And depending on what you do, there's repercussions, and you choose your actions for the turn. So you need to be wise with them, but maybe you want to go here when your teammates are over there, and now you're trapped. Now there's ghoulies and other stuff thrown into it. It's just, I'm lost for words, honestly. I've already said it ticks all the boxes for me. It is an absolute worldy of a game. It is very expensive, which is why I haven't picked it up yet. So I'm very lucky to be getting it for my birthday. I was going to pick it up the other day, but my girlfriend said no, save it. It's quite a big buy, so I'll get it for your birthday. So I am very lucky in that respect. So I can't wait to get it. I'm just very excited. But that's just my honourable mention. So let's move in to my actual #1 game. And my next horror installment, I've gone for Betrayal at House on the Hill. Now, I've played this game, must be 20, 30 times at the least. And we might have had a duplicate once, but every time the game's been entirely different. And that is so unique in a board game. How do they do it? Well, basically, let me set the scene. You're going to be a group of adventurers walking around a spooky haunted house. You're all on the same team, you explore, you find items like a spear or a madman or a bloody vision. Things start to go wrong real quick, and it turns out one of you are a traitor. It normally depends on who reveals the omen, when and where. And then there is a book of 100, I think, or 99. There's a ton of different variations anyway. And these are going to be entirely different. So it will say stuff like, you have voodoo dolls of the rest of the party and you use them to your advantage. Or maybe you've shrunk them down and they're now trying to escape the house. This is what I mean. There's so many different variations, none of them the same. It makes for an endless amount of fun. Like I've just said, probably 30 plus times. And the experience has never been the same. And I think that's why this one has stuck around. It's quite a big game. And like I said, my group isn't normally into the heavier games. But this one, I would say, is one of our favourites as a group, and definitely one of mine. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you've made it to this point, thank you so much for watching. Let me know your favourite games in the comments below. Let me know any on here that you would agree with or have in your top 10. Maybe any you'd think I would like. So like I said, huge into horror. So if you've got any recommendations, drop them below. But I will catch you in the next one.